Hi, I'm Dave.
And I'm Becky, and we're parents to two little kids. Parenting isn't always easy. There are ups and downs, good days and bad days, days with way too much TV, and days with lots of laughter. Moments where you just feel overwhelmed, and moments where you've never felt more proud.
At the end of the day, parenting is super rewarding, but also super hard. This podcast is for all the parents out there who feel like they have no idea what they're doing, because we're right there with you. This is the Spill Proof Podcast.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Spill Proof Podcast. I'm Becky.
And I'm Dave.
And today we have a little bit of a heavier topic for you, but one that I think is really important that we talk about.
Definitely.
And that is postpartum depression.
Yay.
Woohoo! Postpartum depression. We're trying to make it cheery. I'm just going to warn everyone right now, in prepping for this, I've cried twice. So it probably will get a little bit heavy at times. Mm-hmm. And if you're not ready to listen to something related to this, if you're going through something similar right now, maybe pause and save it for later.
Or maybe it's a good thing to listen to it now.
Or
it
listen
might be helpful.
to it and it could help you with where you are right now. So we just want to make sure we're being, I think I've mentioned that I've dealt with postpartum depression on previous podcasts, but we really wanted to dive into our experience. It actually was a recommendation from another one of my friends, Allie. So Allie, thank you for this.
Yes, thank you.
I think it's a really great topic, and I think more and more women and men and families are talking about it. And I think the more we can talk about it, the more we can help people understand that it's more normal than a lot of people think. And it's sucks if you're going through it, but it's okay. And there are things you can do to help.
So we're talking about postpartum depression, and obviously postpartum depression, the majority, if not most of the time or all the time, affects the
mom.
Mm-hmm. So I wanted to do a little bit of research, because obviously we as a family, like Becky said, we've gone through this. Men can have it too, but generally it's the mom that goes through that, and everyone else is the support system. But I wanted to do a little bit of research and just kind of see how big is this, how widespread. I don't know that people generally talk about it, and apparently statistically that is true. Mm-hmm. So out of 4 million live births in the U.S., 1 out of 7 women end up getting postpartum depression.
That's a lot.
Yeah, it is a lot. That's actually 600,000 women in the U.S. every year for live births.
And it's kind of crazy that it's only just starting to become something that we're talking about more. Mm-hmm. If you think this is not new, it didn't happen or start to become a thing in the last couple of years. This has always been something that women and families and like you said, men are going through, but it's just something that wasn't really talked about. And that, to me, I feel is really sad, because it is really normal. It's okay if you're going through it. Okay in the sense that a lot of other people are going through it, and there should just be more resources readily available for families and women and men who are going through this. There's just such a big number to I feel maybe the last decade it's been talked about more.
It's funny that you say that. Some of the other research that I found, it does say that 50% of the women or people who have postpartum depression, they don't tell anybody. That's 300,000 people in the U.S. every year just go without telling anybody that they're going through it. 600,000 people, that's more common than breast cancer. It's a huge number. 50% of the people affected by that don't tell anybody, and they suffer through it, feeling alone.
And I'll go into this more, but like I get why more people don't talk about it or want to talk about it, and I'll go through what my experience was, but like part of me gets that. But it also, like, I want to be part of this movement that's like, it's okay if you're going through it. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's not the end all be all. Like, you
Mm-hmm.
can get past this. But yeah, I do get why people don't want to share. But I think my biggest takeaway for everyone is share with someone. Tell somebody. Doesn't matter who it is. Could be your spouse, could be your mom, your mother-in-law, a friend, a trusted coworker, your boss. Like, tell one person that you're feeling this way, and I think it can get better.
Yeah, it's interesting that that you say that, because one of the best things, from what I looked up, that you can do is just talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, talk to somebody, talk to your parent, talk to your significant other, whoever it might be. Probably don't talk to the baby because they're not really going to listen,
But if it helps, like if that's your first step, right? Like if your first step is to tell the baby, like, hey, mommy's not feeling great,
mm-hmm.
and that helps you open up, then do it. Like whatever is going to make you feel comfortable. But yeah, like tell someone you trust
Mm-hmm.
for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's interesting because only 15% ever go to see a therapist. Again, it doesn't have to be a therapist, but just going to talk to somebody. Even just
Only
a couple.
15%?
Only 15% go to see a therapist, and the studies show that even just a few sessions with a therapist make a huge difference, an absolutely huge difference. And whether it's full blown postpartum depression or just the baby blues, which is interesting. The baby blues affects 70 to 80% of parents, which is a lot.
Most.
Yeah,
Most of
that's
us.
basically
Yeah,
everybody
most
at
parents.
some point in time. Whether it's not feeling like that instant bond when you have a child, or just that overwhelming feeling of being overwhelmed.
Mm-hmm.
It can be a lot, and some studies say that it happens to be the season. Whether it's winter when you have the baby and you're
Oh, that's
cooped up
interesting.
inside, or if it's summer and you're able to go outside and do stuff and socialize, and
I
obviously
would
with COVID.
be interested. Yeah, speaking of COVID, I would be interested to know if the number of moms who have postpartum depression has increased since COVID has hit.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Yeah, these
like
might be
you're
old
not
data.
going out more, and like you just had a baby. You're probably not going to have like any type of gathering at your home with a newborn at home with COVID going on,
Mm-hmm.
and now with Delta spiking and everything. So it'll be interesting over the next few years, honestly, to see if postpartum depression is on the rise. And I think the takeaway from that is like there are other factors that go into it. It's not just you. So if you're out there thinking, what's wrong with me? Why do I have postpartum depression? It's not you. Like that's like it's not you. There are so many factors that go into
Mm-hmm.
it. Gosh, I'm already tearing up.
It's okay.
This is going to happen many times. But it's not you. It's a combination of factors and hormones and things you can control, things you cannot control that go into this, and it's okay. A lot of women go through it and a lot of people aren't talking about it. So be that brave, take that brave step and tell someone that you're going through this.
I think that's very well put.
Whew.
Are you okay?
Yep.
No. All right.
So, I think what we're going to do is we're going to talk through kind of what my experience personally for me was like just what I felt was. And then we're going to talk through what Dave experienced because we co-parent. You know, we're not single parents. We co-parent together. We are very much in this together. And I know not everyone's in that situation, but that's our experience. So I want to give my experience with postpartum depression. And then I want Dave to tell his experience with it, because I think like a lot of dads too, like they may not know like what to do in this situation, or like maybe like the signs of it or things. So I'd really love to get Dave's perspective, and then we'll talk through what we did about it when we realized I was going through it. All right.
Okay.
Yes, I'm going to be okay.
All right.
So we are going to dive into my experience, I guess, what I kind of felt and how we came to the realization that I was in fact having and experiencing postpartum depression. So I really think it hit pretty soon after Owen was born. And one thing I think everyone should know is in doing research for this, postpartum depression can happen while you're pregnant, like up to a year after your baby is born. And I really think probably after like your baby is adopted or like any situation like that. If you're fostering kids or whatever it may be, like if that's a new situation in your life, I think like postpartum depression can happen. But
yeah, what you're saying is that you don't necessarily have to have the baby to have postpartum depression.
Experienced it. Yeah. For me, I do feel like it happened like pretty quick after Owen was born. I feel like I bonded with him, and I like always felt like I loved him, but I also thought that like things would come a lot more naturally than they did. Gosh, the tears are already starting. And this is like, it's crazy because Owen's like 2.5, and just thinking back to how I felt during this time is I didn't think it was so raw as it is, and I've gotten over it. And as we'll talk about, we like I went to therapy, and we'll talk about that, but I was not expecting these emotions to still be as raw as they were. And I think like even though you've gotten through something and worked past it, and like thinking back to that time when you did feel so low, it's like hard to go back there.
It just shows how real it actually is.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that you've made it past it, it can snap back pretty quick.
Yeah.
Those feelings.
Yeah. So, and I've talked about this before, but I think my trigger was having to pump for Owen, and I really thought that being a mom was gonna come so natural. I thought I was going to be able to breastfeed. I thought I was going to know like, oh, this is his I'm hungry cry. This is his I'm tired cry. This is his I'm bored cry. I didn't know what the heck I was doing.
It was our first kid.
Yeah, I didn't know what the different cries meant. I couldn't breastfeed him. He wouldn't latch, and I was pumping, and I hated pumping. I hate it. You guys know this. If you've listened to our podcast, bottled breasts and SNS, I hated pumping. And I do think that was a trigger for it, but what that really led into was me second guessing myself as a mother. I remember like any decision we had to make regarding Owen's well-being, I felt paralyzed. Like I wasn't good enough to be his mom. And I remember kind of leaning on Dave a lot to be like, well, what do you think we should do? Or like, you tell me what to do, because I felt like if I made the decision, it was going to be the wrong one. I also had this, thought that like if we lived in, sounds so stupid to say out loud, but this is really like what consumed a lot of my thoughts for a long time.
It'll bring us to the mindset. I think it's good to hear it.
Yeah, I thought that if we lived in caveman times, I wouldn't be able to provide for my child because I had a C-section and he wouldn't latch. And so I had to use like quote unquote modern means to bring him into the world and keep him alive with breast milk. Which, as I'm saying it, sounds so stupid because if we didn't have successful C-sections, like we would lose way more kids.
Well, and if we didn't have a C-section, we wouldn't have a kid.
Exactly. Yeah, like we wouldn't have.
If you haven't listened to that episode, it's episode 11, our birthing story. Go listen to that, and you'll know.
And if we didn't have formula in the world for moms who can't produce milk, or like it's breastfeeding is so freaking hard. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it's just too much for a mom.
And there's nothing wrong with formula.
There's nothing wrong with
formula. Formula is exactly
the same. Formula saves lives.
As long as as long as you have good clean water for the formula, it's the exact same thing. Yeah. All the nutrients is in there, all the vitamins. It's just they're just little bits of things. That's all it is. As long as you have good clean water, it's perfectly fine.
Exactly. Like there's nothing wrong with formula. Both of our kids have had formula. Both of our kids have had breast milk and both of our kids have had formula. But I kept getting stuck on this thought that if I had had these kids in caveman times, we wouldn't make it. And that that made me feel like an utter failure. And I just felt really inadequate. I also felt that Owen didn't love me. I loved him, but I thought that he could pick up on the fact that I wasn't an adequate mom. And this was kind of my turning point to let somebody know that I really needed help, but I thought that this was God's way of telling me that I shouldn't be a mom.
It's okay.
But I remember telling my mom and telling Dave that, and they were both like, whoa, like, no, that's not what's happening here. Like, your son loves you, you're taking care of him, but they were like, that's not at all what's happening. But you also need to take care of yourself. And I thought for a while I was doing a really good job of like hiding this from everyone. We'll see if I was when we talk to Dave. I think sometimes I hit it better than others, but it was like a reel that was constantly playing over and over and over in my head, and I couldn't get it to stop, no matter what anyone told me. No matter if Dave was telling me, like, you're doing a great job, like, you're providing for our kids, like, Owen loves you, you're such a great mom. If my mom told me, like, everyone feels this way, it's the baby blues, it's okay, like, maybe you should reach out to your doctor. No matter what anyone told me, I was like, no, they're wrong, I'm a bad mom. And I just, like I said, I couldn't get that loop out of my head. Whew.
Need a minute?
Yeah.
Okay.
Damn you, postpartum.
Owen loves you now.
Yeah, he does. You're still his favorite, but
I need my mommy.
I need my mommy.
It hurts a little bit.
Sometimes when I'm working upstairs and I hear him say, I need my mom, I'm like, drop everything. I'm going downstairs to give him a hug. I think today I heard him say, I need mommy, I need a snuggle. And I was like, oh, I'm out of here. Let me go see what he needs. Okay. Just needed a quick break there. So it took me a really long time, like months. Like this wasn't like, oh, 2 weeks after I had the baby. It was months. I think I want to say I was about to go back to work or had already gone back to work when I think like Dave and I realized like we needed something to change.
And this was that's about what, 4 or 5 months.
Yeah. So I took 4 months or 16 weeks. I took 16 weeks off of work with Owen. 18 with Emily, and yeah, like I think it was maybe right before I went back to work.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really remember the conversation that we had or anything, but I remember it was right before I went back to work that I was like, I need help. Like I said, I don't remember like actually saying those words to you, but and Dave has like always been a very supportive husband and partner, and I think I didn't want him to know I was feeling these things because, like I said, I felt super inadequate and I felt like a failure as a mom, and I didn't want to admit to my husband, who is, from at least like what I saw, like such a natural with our son and like so loving and so giving, and I didn't know how to tell him initially that like, hey, I love our son too, and I want to give him everything, but I feel like I'm doing the worst job in the world. But then we did decide that, you know, we needed to take that next step to get help, and I think like I said, I don't remember exactly our conversation, but I think I did say to him, like, I think I'm having postpartum depression. Like, it's not just baby blues. Like, I think I'm experiencing this. So before we go into like what we did about it, I kind of want to get Dave's perspective as to what he saw during all of this. Like we said, this was like 4 months worth of feelings and emotions, and I like to think I'm really good at hiding things from Dave, and I'm not. I'm so bad at it. He's always like, I can look at you and like tell what you're feeling or thinking. So I'd love to get his perspective as to like what he saw during this time.
So you have no poker face. And I've known that since we were dating, that you have this innate ability to have every single, for the most part, every single thing you're feeling or thinking show on your face. Subtle little hints, subtle little twitches. It's fairly noticeable. I still remember we had that video of you and me playing, I think it was like Jenga at the Strong Museum of Play.
Yeah.
And for some reason I recorded it, but only your side of it. And it's probably just the way I was able to put the phone. But like, I was pulling the brick. It was your reaction. And like, you can't see what I'm doing. By the facial expressions alone, you could tell. I would try one. It would start to wiggle. I would try another one. It looked like it would go. Like, it just, you could see everything I was doing off of your face without actually seeing it. And that's the way you've pretty much always been. Fairly easy to read. I think when it came to this, it may have been, and it might not have been. And I think that maybe part of that is on me, because there was a lot going on. We were first-time parents, and we had a cat that kept trying to scratch the baby.
Yep.
Or smother it, or
yeah.
whatever we thought we was going to do. And there was just a lot going on. And I think, if I remember right, I did start to notice before you said something, but it was much later than I should have noticed. And I think it was mainly because it was, we hadn't had something like this. We hadn't had something that needed us solely to survive.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you, but I felt like I bonded with Owen instantly. Which isn't a normal thing. It's not, you don't need to bond, you don't need to feel that
like
love
it's
at first
totally
sight.
okay if it takes a while for you to be like, oh my gosh, I'm totally in love with this little baby.
Yeah, love at first sight, that mentality is only about 100 years old. Like back in the 1600s, they would wait like a year before they even would name a baby.
For real?
Yeah, because they didn't know if it was going to survive.
Ay.
Yeah.
Yikes.
So, love at first sight doesn't have to happen. Doesn't mean you're a bad parent. It just is what it is. And I think that I might have been blinded by that portion of it. And both you and I are very guilty of putting the kids first. And ourselves or us tends to take a little bit of a back seat. And that's carried forward even to, I think, even current day.
Something we're working on.
It's something we're working on. It is something we're working on. And we try to be conscious of it as best as we can be. But it's hard. If it wasn't for us having a baby, I think I would have seen it a lot sooner. I witnessed, from my point of view, the slow breakdown, which was pumping. I would almost say every single time you had a pump, it just chipped away just a little bit more and just made that crack just a little bit bigger. And we've talked about this.
Yeah.
We've talked about this and like we said, I think the bottles, breast, and S&S.
Yeah, remember when you gave S&S an 8? An 8 out of 10?
Yeah, I mean, I look like the bad guy now, but it's episode 7 if you want to go listen to it. But it made you feel all those feelings, and at the same time, it took away time that you could have with him. So the way that we did it is while you pumped, I fed him.
Yeah. And
that was like, we wanted to make sure that we were both involved. We were both doing things. Never was like one person just asleep while the other one was doing everything. That was Emily.
Yeah. I wanted to breastfeed.
2 sides to every coin. So I think that it giving you those feelings, but also stealing time away from Owen probably didn't help. And I noticed that more because when we did it, I don't think you were ever in the room. I think when I fed him, you were somewhere else most of the time.
I think I would,
like during the day, you wouldn't.
Yeah, during the day, like I would be around, I think, but I was always like sitting off by myself. So even if I was in the same room, I was sitting like off to the side, pumping by myself.
Yeah, because you're like plugged into the wall.
Yeah, because like I could only go so many places.
Because we made the cheap decision and got the plug-in one when we should have gotten the moved around one.
Yeah,
battery powered one.
The wireless one, is that the word? Wireless?
Cordless.
The cordless one, which we got the second time around, and then I really didn't use it that much. But whatever.
I think we gave it to somebody, right?
No, we still have that one.
Oh, anybody need a breast pump?
We got one. You can have it.
So I feel like I'm usually pretty aware of those things, and I'm used to having to pull stuff out.
Yeah.
But it definitely went in this situation a lot longer than it should have for me to have noticed it. Like I said, I don't know that, and I, based on our relationship, don't think you were hiding it any better than you normally do. I just think that because of the baby, because of all the things that were happening, all the new things, it kind of didn't stand out as much as it should have.
It's also like such a crazy time in parents' lives because it completely changes your entire life, right? Like you have favorite restaurants you go to and like weekend activities that you love and like that it changes everything. And then on top of that, you're like not sleeping for at least 2 months. If you're lucky, it's only 2 months. So it's hard because like neither of us are sleeping as much. Like we're both getting used to this new normal. And yes,
definitely sleep deprived.
Like the mom who has like birthed out a baby, like pushed it out or like had a C-section, like they've gone through a little bit more than the dad, right? And they've also like grown this baby in their stomach for basically 10 months. Yeah. Owen keeps telling me that he grew up in daddy's belly. And I'm like, listen, kid, I grew you in my belly.
He inherited your ability to push buttons.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. So, yeah. Anyways, there's so much going on that it's like part of like life at that point is just making it through day to day and like trying to enjoy it as much as you can. So I do think it's probably hard for a lot of dads or partners of those that have just had a kid to like recognize it. I almost feel like when you have a baby, you like within the first week or within the first like 3 days, you have to like bring the baby to the pediatrician and then like at 1 week and then at 2 weeks and then at a month and 2 months, like you bring the new baby to the pediatrician for like checkups. I almost feel like they need to add in there like a parent's well-being check, like at 2 weeks and at a month and at 2 months, because
it's a really good idea.
Like, I just feel like it's really just focused on the parents who are taking care of this baby. Like, your world changes so much, and like with the hormones and just like the new reality and like you said, like you were like, we were both sleep deprived and like, if it wasn't a new baby in the situation, you definitely would have picked up earlier. But like, there was so many additional factors going on that it probably is really hard for the dads to like, or the partners or whatever it is to like pick up on what's really happening. So I feel like if there was some sort of like, even at like one appointment at a month with like your pediatrician where they're just like, hey, what's going on with you though? Like the baby's great, but like, are you guys okay?
The OB didn't?
I didn't have a checkup with my OB until 6 weeks after.
Oh, man.
No. Was it 8? No, it was 6 weeks. It was 6 or 8 weeks.
They just assumed they did a really good job the first time, huh? Didn't you have to go to get the stitches removed?
No, the stitches like dissolved on their own.
Gross.
Sorry. Well, I pulled one out.
Oh, God, you did.
With Owen. I pulled one out.
It was so gross. It was so gross.
I was like, oh, this little thing's sticking out. Let me pull it out. Anyways.
Scab picker.
Off topic. But yeah, I feel like it's hard for the partners of the people who've given birth because like, I think it, like, here's the thing. Part of me is like you didn't just go through growing a baby and having your body be like wrecked. I don't know about you, but my body was actually, after Owen, my body was okay. After Emily, my body was wrecked. I bounced back pretty quick after Owen. Still in the bounce back for Emily, and she just turned a year last week. So anyways, like the person who has physically given birth and grown the child and like I said, I don't know what it's like to push baby out, but I know what it's like to have a C-section. But I think too, like the parents who have not done that, like they're going through stuff too. As much as it pains me to admit
Not
that.
as much. Not as much.
Not as much.
I'll admit.
But they're going through stuff too. Like I said, like your entire world has changed, and your sole purpose from the time your kid is born or like brought into the world or like introduced to you, your sole purpose like changes, and it's about keeping them safe, especially when they're little babies. Like it's about keeping them alive, which is so much pressure that nobody talks about. Like, please keep Gumby alive. Mm-hmm. Like they can't support their head. They don't know what their limbs are doing. They're going to spit up half of what you try to.
Temperature within a couple degrees.
Yeah, like keep it between 60 and 72 or else like problems. Like it's
we still follow that rule.
We literally still follow that rule, but it's so stressful. It's such a stressful time, and I feel like there should be more support for both parents who are like especially new to this. I went on a tangent and I'm stealing your time to tell us about like what your experience was, and I'm sorry.
No, I think that it's good that you chime in on that, honestly. It's about both of us.
Yeah. So was there like a time when you really noticed like, oh shoot, this might be bad, or I don't know.
There should have been. There should have been a moment where I felt like that. But from what I can recall, there wasn't a moment where I had an epiphany. And from my point of view, it wasn't instant. And it wasn't, and you know, correct me if this isn't how it actually happened. I felt like it was, how's the best way to describe this? Imagine, there's a great metaphor for this. Imagine you have a couple decks of cards, and each card you put down is just a little bit more of that stress, a little bit more of that feeling of, you know, not having the self-worth or not feeling adequate, whatever it might be. And that's how I witnessed it. Each one of those cards was placed in a specific place, and they started to stack up on each other more and more and more. And at a certain point, it was noticeable, but we were new parents. It felt like the stress.
Yeah.
You know, I knew you were feeling stressed. I know I was feeling stressed. Still trying to figure out what we were going to do with that cat. You know, it just, it, from my point of view, I saw it, but I just assumed at that point, early on, and again, further than it should have been, that it was just the stress of having a new baby. Mm-hmm. And as it slowly grew, it started to get noticeable that while my stress seemed to have stopped or started to go down, yours did not. Mm-hmm. Again, you know, there might have been fleeting moments here and there where it kind of showed up, you know, for me out of the blue because I didn't know it was a continuous thing. But really, I think it was when we kind of had that talk, you know, right before you were going to go back to work. And at that point, then it seemed like it was just everything, you know, going back to work. It was, and it didn't help that he was a winter baby, as I was saying before. Having a baby in the winter sucks.
It's so much harder. Mm-hmm. Like you can't just like go outside and walk.
Especially now, but.
Yeah, but even like around the neighborhood, like there's ice and you have to bundle the baby up and are you going to slip? And it's so much harder to have a baby in the winter, I think. Not that you can't have postpartum depression winter, spring, summer, or fall. Like,
yeah.
But I do think it was like a contributing factor to my postpartum depression.
Yeah. And so I think that it was really that point that I really had understood the severity of it. And I'm ashamed to say that because I should have been able to catch that a lot sooner. Again, there were those moments, but it was, I think maybe in my mind, chalked up to just like a bad day.
Yeah.
Because it didn't, again, there was so much going on that it kind of just.
Well, I think it's hard too because it's not like we have birthing classes, right? And we have.
They did nothing.
Like, right? Like, yeah, but it's like a lot of information and it's really about, like what the birth is going to be like and like a couple emergency, like here's things you should do if X, Y, and Z emergent situations are happening. But like nobody told you like, hey, check in with your wife to make sure she's feeling okay. You know what I mean? Like nobody ever said that to you. And I feel like they should, like whether it's your wife, your partner, like whatever it is. Like, I feel like they're like that should be included as part of the prep is like, hey, check in with them.
Yeah. You know what it is. And it's funny you put it like that because my brain immediately went to something that I've witnessed and experienced. And I know you have too. When you start a new job and you go through the training course or whatever it might be, the modules or whatever, there's the way that they teach you how to do it. Or even like certification or whatever it might be. There's a way they teach you how to do it. This is the right way to do it. And then they typically will say, okay, this is what's actually going to happen.
Yeah.
And this is what you need to do. That doesn't happen. Not that there's a handbook. I mean, there's tons of books and things and podcasts. I mean, we're a podcast. But there's a ton of stuff out there. But like, it doesn't... As much as they want to say, if you really told someone like this is what's going to happen, I would imagine most people would be like, "No, I'm okay."
Yeah, like it's not post childbirth. It's not glamorous at all. It's a lot of just like floundering through life until you feel better. But I do think you're right. Like. If somebody had said like, okay, yes, like ideally X, Y, and Z happens, but also what's probably going to happen is like, you're going to feel like you don't know what you're doing. You're going to feel like you're a bad parent. Like you're going to need to like check in with yourself or with your partner to make sure that like they feel emotionally stable. And if they aren't, like get help immediately because like that's normal and it's okay. And it's not like necessarily a bad thing that you're feeling it. Like you haven't failed. It's just like so many factors and hormones and like things have combined to make you feel that way.
And you know what? There's a very good chance, just like, you know, when you were feeling those feelings that you're not going to be like, oh, I believe that 100%. But there's something to be said to walking into It's like from the way I look at it, it's like jumping into the ocean. If you know of the existence of sharks, it's kind of creepy. If you have no preconceived notion about anything that's in the ocean, it is what it is.
Yeah.
And then you know the sharks.
And then the sharks bite you and you're like, oh, crap. Why didn't anyone tell me that there were sharks in the water? That's exactly what it is. There's sharks in the water, everyone. Beware. Yeah, so I think it's hard to recognize it as a partner because there is so much that's going on. I think it's hard to sometimes recognize it in yourself. Like I said, I thought it was baby blues for a while. And then when it didn't go away, but it's like, what's that threshold?
I think it's probably different for everybody.
Yeah, I think it is different for everyone. And like, I think mine definitely bubbled to a point where like it definitely wasn't normal. And I even like, I remember talking to my sister or my sister-in-law, and like, I remember my sister-in-law being like, oh yeah, I remember, I think she was maybe talking to her doctor too. And her doctor
Mm-hmm.
was like, yeah, you're not supposed to feel that way. And she was like, oh, I didn't know. But like, I think so many women go through that where they're like, oh, I didn't know. I wasn't supposed to feel that way.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and once I reached out for help, everything got so much better. And it took time.
Mm-hmm.
I remember like I called the doctor. I cried through everything. I cried through the phone call where I was like, I need to talk to somebody. And I think we're in a pretty unique situation where both of our like primary care physicians is our pediatrician as well. He's
Mm-hmm.
like double certified, which is awesome for us. But
Mm-hmm.
like, so he had like seen me with the baby with Owen. He knew me really well because like I saw him before I met you and got pregnant and had kids. So like I think I cried through the phone call where I was like, I think I need to talk to somebody about postpartum depression. Was like hysterical on that call. And then they got me in really quick. I'm pretty sure it was same day. They were like, we need to see you. And at the time, our doctor was out on paternity leave. He had just had his second child, I think. So I saw one of the other physicians, but they were like, we need to get you in right away. So I'm pretty sure I went in same day. Maybe it was the day after, but it was really, really quick. And what I do remember was like, I literally cried through talking to everybody, the nurses, the doctor, but everyone was like, this is normal. So many women feel this. It is not abnormal. Like, what you're doing, asking for help, is absolutely the right thing to do. And everyone was so gracious. They were like, cry if you need to. That's totally okay. Like, you're going through so much. And I went with like without Owen. I went just by myself, which I think helped because sometimes it's hard to like, you want to like keep your kids out of it. Like, you
Mm-hmm.
don't want them to think it's about them. It's not. You love your kids. And even if you haven't bonded with your kid right away, like, it's not necessarily about them. It's like everything else surrounding them. So it's hard to distinguish it. But like, I personally feel like it wasn't anything to do with Owen. It was like everything else surrounding having a kid. And a lot of it's uncontrollable. So I do remember like they asked me some questions like how I had been feeling, and I did like on a scale of 1 to 10, and like all the ratings were bad. And then the doctor came in and was like, again, was like, this is totally like, while it stinks, like it's not uncommon for you to feel this way. And they kind of gave me a couple options. One of them was to go on medication, which I have been on medication for anxiety before. It's totally fine. I was like a little nervous about going on medication because they were like, because you're pumping, make sure you do it like right after you pump, take your medication so that by the time you pump again, it's out of your system. And that just made me nervous. The other thing was like, maybe look into therapy. And I was like, okay, they like wrote me a prescription for a medication. I don't think I ever filled it because I went home and talked to Dave, and we were both like, we just felt uncomfortable about like, if I didn't take the medication at the right time with the pumping schedule, that like it could potentially get into the breast milk. So what actually happened was when my it's our pediatrician and our PCP, when he came back from paternity leave, I went and saw him again and talked through my options again. And we determined that I would go see a therapist. I'd been in therapy before just for other things in life. There's no shame in it.
Mm-hmm. I've been there too.
Yeah. And found a really great therapist that I was able, like the first 5 sessions, I just cried through. But it really helps to talk to someone who is removed from the situation. It was always great to talk to Dave, to my mom, to my sister and my sister-in-law, but talking to someone for me who is removed from the situation really helped bring me perspective. And some of the things that I would say to her that would be like ridiculously outlandish, that like, this is God's way of telling me I shouldn't have been a mom. She was like, do you know how ridiculous you sound? And I was like, no, I'm pretty sure it's true. And like, we would talk through that aspect. And I would come home and tell Dave like what we had talked about. You don't have to, like, it's your.
You didn't always do that.
I didn't always. I think, and I didn't tell you every single thing we talked about.
More often or not, you didn't tell me, and I didn't try.
No, yeah, like you were very respectful of like, this is your time to work through.
I think a couple of times I was like, "You didn't talk about me, did you?"
And I would be like, "Yeah, you're the worst." Like we would still joke through it when we could, right? Like it's a very serious situation, but Dave and I always kind of fall back on like making jokes. So, like it was a super serious situation, but we would like, he would be like, "Did you talk about me today?" And I would be like, "Yeah, it was all I talked about." When like he maybe came up once. But for me, it really, really helped. I think I did it for 3 months, I want to say. And then I actually told my therapist, I was like, hey, I think I'm good. I'm at a point where I feel like you've given me the tools that I need to like be a functioning human being. And she was like, that's great. I'm always here if you need me. Reach out if you need me. And I think after that, I was like, obviously,
I don't think you ever went back.
I never went back. You have good days and bad days after that. But it was what I personally needed to get through.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
No, I feel like I'm a better mom to Owen because I was able to say, like, right now, Owen, I can't give you 100%, which I think is the hardest thing to say as a mom. Is to say, Owen, I can't give you 100%. I need to give like 15% to mommy because mommy's going through something right now. And it took me a really long time to realize that like that was me being a good mom. And I hope that people take that away, is that you investing in yourself is not you being a bad mom or a bad parent or a bad dad. It's sometimes what you need in order to be the best parent you can be.
It's the mentality of keeping a little, but giving, holding a little in reserve so you can do the full thing.
Yeah. Like essentially I was like running on E for months and needed to gas up. That's a really weird like way to put it, but
they get it.
Y'all get it. I never say y'all. This is the first time I've said y'all in my whole life. But y'all get it. Yeah. So
I can't say the same.
Postpartum depression sucks, guys. It's not glamorous. I was very lucky in the sense that I only had it with one kid. I did not have it with Emily, but I know for some of my friends, they were perfectly fine with their first kid and it hit on their second kid or on their third kid. Like postpartum depression,
there's no rhyme or reason to it.
There's no rhyme or reason. Like it can happen at any time for any reason or no reason. And I think the biggest thing is like tell someone you trust that you're not feeling right. Like even if it is just baby blues, like baby blues also suck. So like tell someone you're feeling that, because I think the sooner you can address it, the sooner you can just get on a better path. So
and if you're the significant other, try to be more aware about it. It's there's a lot going on, but you still need to be aware of your partner in this, because you're in it together, and it's very easy to kind of put that to the wayside and justify it. And justify it. Well, it's a newborn baby. We need to do everything we can. We'll figure this out later. It's not the right way to do it. Just figure it out as you go, but keep everything in perspective and keep everything at the forefront. It's a lot. It's overwhelming.
Yeah.
That's why it happens.
Yeah. And like, as much as you can, just be open with your partner, your husband, your wife. I think like I did withhold things from you because like I was ashamed. And like looking at it now, like you never would have judged me for that. You would have been like, okay, let's like, what can I do to support you? But
I judge you for many things. That's not one of them.
oh gosh. Oh goodness, that's a whole other podcast in itself. What does Dave judge Becky about? Anyways, yeah, but if you can, like, be open with your partner, but it is hard. Like, I wouldn't have gone into being pregnant and having a kid thinking that like I'm gonna hide the fact that I think I have postpartum depression, and I've had anxiety, like really bad anxiety in my life, to the point where like when I did tell my doctor that I was pregnant, I think I was like 8 or 10 weeks pregnant, he was like, hey, you're probably a candidate for postpartum depression, so we should keep an eye on that. Like he literally told me when I was like not even completed with my first trimester, and that it still snuck up on me and got me. So he was like, we should like meet after, like we should continually talk about that. And I still didn't necessarily bring it up. So advice I would give to other people is like, be as open as you can. If you don't feel comfortable going to a family member, go to a doctor, or like go to a coworker, or go to anyone. Like if you join a mom group and tell someone in the mom group, like tell one
Facebook
person.
Group.
Yeah,
There's
Facebook
tons
group.
of Facebook groups.
So that you don't have to like necessarily say it out loud. Like you could type it to someone, but I think the sooner you can tell someone else that you're feeling that, it's going to help you down that path of getting better. Because at the time, it doesn't feel like there's a light at the end of the tunnel, but there is. And there can be. So I only cried once.
You did good.
Once. I got emotional before we even started, and I only cried once. It's pretty good.
We had to get this thing out of the way because the prepping was killing us.
Yeah, so I started prepping yesterday, cried, prepped a little more today, cried, and was like, we got to do this tonight or else like I'm going to be in a bad spot. But we're in a place now where I can tell you that. I can be like, whoa, this has opened up like a lot more than I thought it would.
How does it feel after you've kind of put it out there? Any different?
It feels good. I just want to help other people who are going through it. I know, like, part of me is like, I can't stop this from happening, right? Like, I can't, like, I don't feel like I can help people, like, prevent postpartum from happening. But if we can help raise awareness as to, like, what it feels like for some people, and to get help as soon as you do feel like that, maybe we can decrease how long it affects someone.
And again, the reason why we're doing this is for both, both people, both significant others, however you want to put it. It's on the other person just as much, to, if not more, to try to keep an eye out for it. Even if you walk into it like, and again, it's so hard because there's just so much going on. It's such a new time and everything feels different and ups and downs, and it can get lost in the shuffle, but just to, check in every once in a while, just be like, hey, listen, how are you doing? Because I know we didn't do that as much as we probably should have.
But I do feel like with Emily, we did.
And it was way
did.
better.
Yeah. Like I remember telling you, I don't feel postpartum depression at all. Or like, I feel really great today. Or like, it's crazy that I don't feel these feelings of inadequacy and failure. And then there were a couple of days where I was like, I'm feeling really down today. Or I'm not feeling great today. And they were a couple months in, but like, because we had gone through it in the past, and I think we were like, we let this go on too long. Like, I was able to be like, Dave, I'm feeling really down today, and I'm not really sure why. And we were able to talk about it a little bit more.
Yeah. I definitely didn't have the love at first sight with Emily.
No?
Or with the ultrasound.
And you did with Owen? And that's totally okay.
Yeah.
Like, each kid is different, and they're both obsessed with you now.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's totally fine. Like, not every kid is the same. Not every pregnancy is the same. Not every birthing and postpartum experience is the same. But I think postpartum depression is something that is way more prevalent than a lot of people think. And just keeping an eye out for it is the best thing.
And speak up. You know?
Yeah, for sure.
People don't, if people don't know, it's really hard to know what's happening.
Yeah, and even if like you are a significant other who you're like, I feel like my person is going through something. Even just being like, hey, you good? Like, do you want to talk? Like, if you don't want to talk to me, that's okay. Like, we'll find someone else to talk to. But just like offering that up, I think we'll just go.
Yeah, don't be pushy, but
don't be pushy. Like, it's hard because you like, don't be like, hey, do you have postpartum depression? Because if someone is having postpartum depression, they're probably going to be like, no, back off. I'm fine. Just being like, hey, are you good? Do you want to talk? Just offering like anything up, or like, yeah, it's such a hard situation, but I think the more we as society can talk about it, the better we're going to be at like catching it and like reducing the length of it. Because I don't think we'll be able to like
avoid it
or be like, we solved postpartum depression. But the more we talk about it, I think the more we can reduce how much it's affecting families.
I definitely think so.
All right. Next time we'll have something that's like a little more upbeat, but I also think this is really important to talk about.
Yeah, I think
the reality.
This was very important, and it was a great suggestion. It's the reason why we did it.
Thanks, Allie.
Again, being a couple that has gone through it, we completely understand the severity of it and how it affects everybody involved and the kids, and we just wanted to, try to
share what we went through.
Thanks for listening to the Spill Proof Podcast. As always, reach out to us at spillproofpodcast@gmail.com.
We'd love to hear from you all, and we can't wait to talk with you next time.
Thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye.